lights shine down. That's what we do around here all the time. All right. Everybody has probably said, or even at least heard, patience my ass. Right? You can laugh. It's all right. Just because it's church doesn't mean you have to be serious. If I can stand here and say it, you can too. Has anybody in this room not ever said that? It's like, you know, I have patience. You don't think you have? Janet, the pure one, yes. Huh? She thought it. She's lying. All right, some of you may be pure enough that maybe you haven't, but you at least heard somebody say it, yes?
Yes.
All right. So with that very real thing, and I can tell when I lit the candle for patience, there was a lot of moaning in the room. So it's a topic that we could probably all use a little help on. Maybe some of you are so saintly that you don't need that anymore. You're ascended, you know, that's great. But most of us, you kind of relate to that idea. But today is about the possibility, at least the possibility, of changing it to an asset. So hence my pun is very intended up here. To change it from patience my ass to patience my asset. That's where we're headed. That's the goal. That's a good goal. You know, all these talks are for me. This one is for me, a whole lot. I have places that I'm really patient in my life. I'm really patient with people. I'm really patient with teaching. If you're in my class, you know that. I'm really patient. But I'm not very patient with discourteous drivers. You heard me say that. So I have to practice this when I'm on the road. And I just admit that freely because, you know, what I'm thinking is that you probably all have areas that you say, yeah, I'm really patient in this area, but not so much in this other area. And if we were to like share our stories, I think we'd find it as a very common story. So let's just get right down to the idea of the lack of patience and where it comes from and how it happens for us. All right, so one of the first ones that I thought of is the word should. Should. The shoulds and the expectations of how things should be, how other people should be behaving, the shoulds and the expectations. Put yourself in a few scenarios of your life. Oh yeah, I was shoulding on somebody. Oh yeah, I did kind of have an expectation of that happening like that. Our shoulds and our expectations, at least for me, are one of the main things that cause my lack of patience. One of them is fear. Fear? Fear of what? Fear of not being in control. Think about it. I'm going to just like put these out there, and then you can apply them to your life. Oh yeah, I'm not in control. It's a scary thing. We get impatient sometimes. Poor planning, that sometimes is a real tangible one. Poor planning, you know, like I know I have to be somewhere at a certain time and I didn't allow enough time and now I'm mad at everybody else because they're in my way. But it was my poor planning that caused my lack of patience. That feeling of somebody else being in my way. I'm not healing fast enough. Whether that be physical healing or mental, emotional healing, I'm not healing fast enough. We get impatient because we're not healing quick enough. Other people are not behaving the way I want them to. Few people laughing, yeah, okay, there's that one. Sometimes it's just a habit to be impatient. But if you can take these ideas and add some of your own, why am I not patient? What we don't get to do if we want to grow spiritually is we do not get to say, my lack of impatience is because of anybody else. God, I hate that. Sometimes it's just so much easier to just say it's your fault. But the truth is, my lack of impatience is my lack of impatience, period. And the same is true for you. So when we're doing this work, when we're working on getting beyond that, we don't get to blame other people, okay? So no matter what I did, because I remember sitting in your seats going, wow, so-and-so really needs to hear this. Well, yeah, so-and-so really... Okay? So we don't get to blame anybody else. We don't get to say I'm impatient because of you. We're saying I'm impatient because maybe you're not behaving the way I want, but that's still mine. I need you to really hear that. That's still ours. Okay? That's just a few examples. You could come up with all kinds. You know, projects, people, expectations, shoulds, you got it, right? So So why do I think it's important on a spiritual living basis to be more patient? Not just on a human basis, but on a spiritual living basis. Why is that important? I came up with the idea of, well, let me count the ways. There are so many reasons. But I came up with a few to share with you. It's good for your health. It's good for your health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Usually the opposite of patience, the impatience, comes with stress. Stress is not good for our health. So patience, in and of itself, as I'm living this human spiritual life, it's good for my health. It's good for all of us. It helps us to slow down. So if there's a lesson for us to be learned in a scenario, we can actually get it. You know, when we're busy and when we're patient and we're always pushing and driving, we don't really get to hear or take in what lesson might be available for us. And believe me, there's always a lesson available for us. Sometimes we may not want the lesson, but most of us here are here to spiritually grow. So, yeah, we do. We welcome it. We let it in. So when we slow down a little bit, when we practice patience, we can actually sort of go, oh, I get it. This is for my growth in this particular area. So it slows us down enough to actually take in and get the lessons that are here for us. With other people, patience helps us to listen. It helps us to really listen to another person. To not just hear with our ears, but to hear with our heart. To listen. I know when I'm impatient, I don't hear what anybody is saying. When I'm thinking about all the things I got to get done and my to-do list, and I'm feeling stressed and I'm feeling impatient, how present am I for you? How present are you for somebody else? Not very, if you really want to be honest. So when we're dealing with other people, being patient, slowing down, allows us to hear each other. And we can also hear the inner voice. Whether it's listening to another person or listening to our God voice. When I slow down, when I take a breath, I can hear the God voice in me. When we're busy running around like chickens with our heads cut off, we don't hear God's voice. And people say to me, well, I don't hear an inner voice. I don't hear an inner voice. It's like, yeah, because you don't ever stop. Okay? Stop, slow down so you can actually hear the inner voice. It takes quiet. It takes listening and tuning into the inner. I don't know about you, but when I'm patient, I make wiser decisions. I make wiser decisions, and I allow space for all manner of information to come to me to help me make those decisions. I've seen time after time after time in my life where when I was wanting to fix something, make a decision and rush in, but I said to myself, wait, slow down and wait. The things that have shown up in my life when I wait are usually magnificent. And those are those moments that I go, wow, I love the synchronicity of how this happens. I could not have planned this if I was in such a hurry to make that decision. But because I said, wait, slow down, back up a little bit. All of a sudden, this piece of information came, or this person came, or this idea came, and it's like, wow, I couldn't have planned it if I hadn't practiced a little patience. Remember, these are all the spiritual living points I'm making right now. I have 8 of them. That's 4 out of 8. It aligns us with Mother Nature. And Mother Nature does not stress. Mother Nature, at its core, is a very, very patient idea. You go out and you sit in the middle of the wilderness and you watch the leaves grow. They're not in any hurry. Everything is on their own time. So being patient is aligning us with that nature that we really are too, but we forget, especially those of us who live in cities. Living out in nature, people have an easier time with that. Being patient allows us to gain a broader perspective, and I've already alluded to that idea about when I wait, I can see. But as its own merit, being patient now lets me take in more. I can see from a broader perspective. Impatience usually has us looking at it just like that. So it gives us a broader perspective. That's always good for spiritual living. It's always good for growing and moving into more of who we are. It enhances our ability to trust the source.